Welcome back to Not 6 O'Clock News. This is a place where you can get information and inspiration for a brand new reality. My name is Natasha Rosewood. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a quantum healer, inspirer of intuitive intelligence, and author. Thank you for joining me on the show, and I'm looking forward to sharing some great information with you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to, I think it's episode 22 of Not 6 O'Clock News. And tonight we are going to be talking about, are your relationships healthy? So all of us have been brought up in this system we call the family, and they are where we first learn our cues about our value, our parents and our siblings, if we have any, model to us, our relationships, how we should connect or not connect with other people, with human beings, how we should feel about ourselves. And whether the words are said or not said, we often get the feeling of what our importance is and what our value is, how precious we are in that situation. And of course, then we grow up and we go out into the world, we go to school, we get more messages from friends, teachers, our community, whatever's going on. So if we've come from a dysfunctional family, which according to John Bradshaw, 95% of us have, at different levels, we have not had healthy relationships modeled to us. And many of my clients, I notice, don't even know when they're in an unhealthy relationship. And they're still asking me, oh, how can I fix this other person? And I'm going, no, you're not meant to fix that other person. You're just meant to fix you and get happy. So we're going to be talking tonight about all the kinds of different dysfunctions we get. So family dynamics, bullying, jealousy, dealing with old friends, people that we want to leave but we just can't seem to leave, and how people make us feel. What are the clues that we're getting from our own intuition and visceral feelings, and what we can do about that. So I was having a conversation with my lovely friend, Laurie Jenner, and she's joining me tonight. We're just going to kind of chat about our experiences. She's a beautiful, successful businesswoman. She inspires me because she's got a lot of courage. And she's like me. She wants to work with youth and teach kids, teenagers and young adults, how to really have healthy relationships. So we don't have to get to 40, 50, the third marriage and be going, oh, I think there's something wrong here. Let's nip it in the bud. And so we can end this generational, cyclical, systemic, cultural dysfunction, and we can all be much happier, more functional people. So I'd like to welcome Laurie Jenner, sorry. I know it's Laura, but Laurie. And how are you doing tonight, Laurie?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. And thank you for coming on. I know this topic just sprang out of a conversation we were having. And you started talking about your family, first of all. And you and I have some similarities with highly dysfunctional mothers when they were younger, right? When they were actually bringing us up. So tell me, what was your experience in your family, and what was the message you got about who you are and your value from your family?
I think for me, it was primarily not feeling wanted. A lot of, locking me out when I was a young girl. And, in Ontario, the humidity was disgusting, and I'd be locked outside and wanting so bad for my mother just to let me in. And so it was a feeling of not really feeling wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Was my mom a bad person? She wasn't. This was stuff that was always carried through from previous generations.
Right.
And so she was dealing with the only tools that she had.
Yes.
Right. Which were slim to none.
Yes.
So,
and so she hadn't had positive maternal mothering model to her. And sounds like, now what number were you in your family?
I was the fifth child.
And so were you the favorite, or was it a different situation?
I would say I came along and they were tired, and I knew that, and I could feel that. It was just one of those things. It wasn't planned, and that was no secret for me growing up.
So what do you think the fundamental belief system that you kind of gleaned from that about you? So, for example, I remember doing a flotation tank and doing a meditation, and I
Right.
went back into my mother's womb, and I was remembering, became conscious of when she was telling my father that she was pregnant again with me. Now I was number 4, and he had come back from the Second World War. He did not want kids, and now there's a 4th one, and I heard him think, oh, another mouth to feed. She's just going to be another baby in the way. I'm going to be a nuisance. So I always felt like you, I wasn't wanted. I was a nuisance. And somehow I had to make myself useful to be worthy of being here on the planet. But what was your belief, and then what was your behavior around that belief?
You know, I would have to say the biggest thing was I just felt like, why wouldn't they want me? You know, why was I such a nuisance? Why did I feel like I didn't belong in this family? You know, almost a feeling of, you know, I just think I'm with the wrong family sort of thing. But as I got older, I realized it wasn't just me.
Yes.
You know, I had other siblings that were feeling the same as me, but they were much older, being I was the youngest.
Okay.
So, you know, as time went on, you know, I found a lot of different things out. And being that I wasn't alone in feeling like that.
And did you discuss it with your siblings? Because I know in our family, there were 5 of us too. And it was the strangest thing, because I don't know whether my mother drummed this into me that I was lucky, and that I was lucky to have food, and I was lucky to have a roof over my head, and I should take what I could get, kind of thing. But I grew up thinking that we had a happy childhood. And then when I grew up, I realized that all my siblings thought it was just horrible and it was the pits. I'm going, okay, well, where was I? What cloud was I in? So I know that we definitely did not compare notes. We fought a lot. I thought we loved each other, but it turned out there were a lot of different undercurrents because my mother did a divide and conquer. So what was the dynamic between you and your siblings?
Well, like I said, as I got older, I realized there was a lot of things that they said too. And the same, okay, where was I during all this? Because I didn't know any different. I thought this was normal.
Right.
But as I got older and realized it wasn't normal, we talked more. I mean, I was young. I don't remember living with my brother and my oldest sister, because I was so young. I mean, they were 10 and 11 years older than me.
Right.
So I was very young. They were moved out. And so as we talked, you know, it was when I realized, because one of the things that was for me was, I don't remember my parents ever saying, I love you. And I thought maybe I was the only one. And then as I talked to my siblings, they said the same thing. And so, you know, it was then, you know, we've talked a lot about it. My brother dealt with a lot of stuff in regards to it as well. And I didn't find that out until I was an adult. But it's just amazing how all of these patterns that are carried through, you know, and they just keep going through all the generations. And now I can talk to my parents about it. I can talk to my siblings, and, you know, we all kind of experienced the same thing.
That's good.
And so it was kind of comforting to know that it wasn't just me.
Well, you're a rare case, I think, because so many of my clients, and myself included, did not get validation from each other. There was so much hurt and I want to say jealousy and other dynamics going on. But let's just go back to that generational thing, because I'll often see this in my clients too. Like they have some kind of subconscious block or subconscious belief that stops them from going. And I'll say, you know what, I think this has come down through your female lineage, or if it's a male, it's come down through. So it's come down through the generations. And it's so fascinating to me, because when that person that's sitting in front of me chooses and has the courage to deal with this and stop that cycle, I can feel the ancestors, the parents and the grandparents and the great-grandparents who are in spirit going, oh, thank God, you know, we're ending that cycle of that long pattern. So I'm going to salute you for having done that in your family, by the sounds of things. So in your family, before you discussed it, were there any kind of grave dysfunctions. I mean, a lot of people, you know, resort to alcohol or drugs if they really come up without any self-esteem at all. Was there any of that that was going on in your family?
Not in my immediate family with my parents. But having said that, going back, like my grandmother was pregnant with my mother when my grandfather left to go fight the war.
Yes.
He came home when he didn't meet my mother until she was 5 years old. And so he came back a raging alcoholic, and it was my grandmother's battle for many years.
Yes.
And I've heard stories. My mother told me that every Friday when he'd get paid, he'd have to run to the neighbors and call for help because, you know, he was drinking. It was out of control. And so having said that, there's where the dysfunction started for my mother.
Right.
Prior to that, I don't know a whole lot. But that's where it started for my mother. And that's where it went through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a system. So were there any other, because of your belief growing up, and, you know, I know it's obviously very highly intelligent. You're a successful businesswoman, beautiful. Were people jealous of you? Did you notice that? Or have you had people be jealous of you, and how have you dealt with that?
Are you talking as an adult or
yes.
when I was young?
Well,
as an adult?
Either.
You know what? I think it was more me feeling jealous of other people. Okay. You know, and when I say that, I mean friends that had this incredible relationship with their family, and it was just wonderful. And they, you know, their sisters, and it was just a really nice bond. So I think I was kind of jealous about that, or not jealous. Maybe let's say I'd envied them.
Yes.
Yes. But you know, having said that, as an adult, I think I repressed a lot of stuff, if that makes any sense. It was just, if I didn't think of it, it never happened. But I will say that for me, it was very important for me. I didn't want to be that parent. Right. I didn't want to be that parent. I wanted to have that relationship with my kids. Was I a perfect mother? Not even close. It was a learning lesson.
Yes, of course.
You know, without instructions.
Yes.
And I was a single parent. I was on my own. And to this day, I still say it. I tell my kids every day I love them. And I always help them when they need it. Even if they don't need it, I'll help them because they're pretty responsible. Yeah. And that's just how I wanted to be. I didn't want my kids to say, I don't remember mom ever saying I love you.
No.
Like, that's not the dash that I want to leave behind, if that makes any sense.
So you've definitely broken the cycle there. But I just want to get back to jealousy for a minute, because to me, that's another form of an unhealthy relationship. Right. And I always have to thank my mother for giving me what I call spidey senses around jealousy, because I didn't realize when I was growing up with my mother, and again, she came from parents who were highly dysfunctional, God bless them, because they were dealing with, they went through 2 wars. My grandmother, who I was very close to, she was very, very high standards. But my grandfather, who I think did the most damage to her, was very verbally abusive. And he would do the divide and conquer. Oh, you'll never be as good as your mother. Oh, you know, you're not as good as your brother. And so there was that kind of put down all the time. So when we all came along, I think my mother's only power was being a mother, and she wanted power over each one of us. And we didn't realize that dynamic when it was going on at the time. And I felt she was her hatred of me was actually jealousy, and I didn't realize that until later. And now it's a very distinct feeling. So when I get it from other people, and it often comes through passive aggressive people who are not getting what they want, and they look at you or me or somebody else and say, oh, I want that and I hate them for having that, so I'm going to be snarky with them, kind of thing. And I do want to make people aware of this, because jealousy is probably one of the worst kind of lower vibrational emotions that you can experience. And if you're with somebody that is jealous of you, it kind of makes you feel guilty for having anything, right? So what I say to people who are dealing with jealousy, and we talked a little bit about this last week on Loving Yourself, is just to, if they're open to it, empowering them, saying, how can I support you in getting what you want? Because you don't really want to be me. You really want to be you, but having what you think I have. And if they're not open or ready or willing to grow, and thank you for your support or inspiration, walk away. So, you know, that's one of the things. And in the end, as difficult as that was for me, and it took me probably 20 years too long, I walked away from my mother, and I thought, if I stay with her, it's going to be her or me. I'm going to go down on her ship. So I am already emigrated. I already was on the other side of the world, but I got to a point where you're never going to change. You're never going to get better. You're never going to love me in the way that we're never going to have that mother-daughter relationship again. We're done. And I did go to her death. I did, when she was in hospital in Scotland, I did go to her, and I did a forgiveness ritual with her. And that was probably the best. It was very scary for me because I thought she'd sit up in bed and swivel her head and spew green slime and go, ah! I'd have to run from the room. But something absolutely left her body when I said, let's forgive us. We've hurt you. You've hurt us. Go in peace. We're done. Just go in peace. And she came back to me in spirit form 6 months afterwards and thanked me for doing that, because it really helped her on the other side, accelerated her growth, and she was able to release her demons. And now she's a very happy spirit. So it's never too late to really get the healthy relationship, no matter what circumstances, even if that means not being together for a period of time. So the other story you told me, which I think kind of inspired our choice of topic, was you had that bully. You had that bully experience early on.
Yes, when I first moved out. This was kind of the topping on the cake for me, because I know when I was young, we moved all the time, and it was never within the same city. I was moved around a lot. So I really was never able to have roots or friends that I could go to school with and graduate with. I didn't have that. I moved around so much. It was craziness. And then when the last move was moving out to BC from Ontario. I was 15 years old. It was January of 1985. I will never forget this. And it was really hard. I felt like I didn't fit in. I found the people between Western Canada and Eastern Canada very different. And then finally around spring break, I finally met a girl, and we were hanging out. We go out, and there was a gal that went to my school that was always staring at me, and I felt very uncomfortable. And I would see her, just if looks could kill, I would have been lying on the floor, honestly. And when I went out that night with this girl, sure enough, I see this girl, and she's with a whole bunch of people, and I ended up in the hospital. They absolutely beat the snot out of me, pardon my wording. And that changed me. And that's where I became upset. I was so many emotions. I was angry with my parents. It's like, you did this to me. You moved me around all the time. You brought me here. And sadness, and people that I've lost along the way as friends, because I was never in one place long enough. Thankfully, the ones that were really important, I've rekindled. But having said that, it was awful. And at that point in time, I went months pretending I was going to school. My parents didn't know a thing.
Wow.
I would not go to school.
So how many of them beat you up?
It was just one, but there was about 50 people surrounding her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did do you have any kind of rationalization for why that happened to you in particular?
In all honesty, from what I found out afterwards, it wasn't just me. There was lots of people who came, that were new and, in the school, and that was kind of what happened. And
Yes.
This was not the first time that this happened. I was just...
You were vulnerable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And alone. And they always pick on the kind of weakest in the crowd, right? Or what they perceive to be the weakest. And we know that bullying is inherent in all society, and it's this power struggle. And I always say to people, remember that bullies have been bullied. And I'm sure this person that beat you up probably came from a really dysfunctional background and was probably getting beaten up at home. So that had been modeled to them. And then they were just acting out their pain and their anger on you. But, I'd like to say, I mean, I want to do a show on bullying for sure, and definitely when we're working with kids, is talk about that a lot more. But I always remember, or like to remind people, and my children that I have in my life, is saying, remember that they're actually very vulnerable because they've been beaten up, and they're trying to pretend that they're powerful when they're actually feeling powerless. And they're choosing this way, and it's the only way they know how to resolve their issue. But what you can do, again, like the jealous person, you can say, what is it you really want to say? What's really going on with you? Instead of beating up on somebody, which doesn't serve any purpose at all and just gets them into more trouble, what can we do to help to really solve the issue? What's really your issue that you want to solve? So there's just one quick tip I like to give out as a protector, and I use this a lot in my world, and I'm always teaching this actually in my psychic development groups, is if you're feeling fear, if you're not feeling strong, and we all have our days when we feel a bit below par, is I put myself in a white bubble of light. So I'm like an egg yolk. So the yellow part of me is my physical body. The white is my auric field. And then the shell, instead of being a fragile shell, is like a white laser. And nothing but nothing can get through that. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, etherically, nothing can touch me. And I will often I'll put that around my car or my house, but especially around myself when I'm feeling fear, because I know that when we're in that frequency of fear and vulnerability, like attracts like, or complementary. So we don't want to be so vulnerable that, we're walking down the street like this. Somebody goes, aha, that person over there, it's like we've got a big arrow pointing down, pick on that person. So when you have the white light, you can actually manipulate your aura too. And this is one of the energy dynamics I'll be teaching kids, which I love this. So if I want to go into a room and feel confident when I'm not really feeling confident, I actually play with my aura. I kind of send it out to about 40 feet. And then when I walk in the room, people go, oh, Natasha, you have a presence about you. And I go, I know, it's my aura. Because, and then when I go to the grocery store, I'm having a bad hair day, I'll go, okay, I just want to be invisible and I want to pull it in. And I can go through the grocery store and nobody will notice me. So I urge people that are feeling bullied to really play with that and know that you can call in your guides and angels to be with you and support you through any situation. And really, you are the better person. Remember, you are the better person because you're not seeking to hurt anybody else. And sometimes people allow themselves to be bullied in a kind of weird kind of way to save the person that's bullying them, because in an unconscious way, they realize that this person doesn't really want to hurt them, but they're just expressing their pain and anger. And I know my mother, funnily enough, I don't remember being bullied at school. I think it was one small incident where this girl used to bang my head against a brick wall. Maybe she was knocking some sense into me, I don't know. But my mother was my biggest bully. And I wouldn't have known to call her that until after the fact. And I go, oh my God, I was terrified of her. And because she was psychic, she was psycho, she was an alcoholic, and she was possessed, she was a lot of fun. She would really know, not just when I was physically vulnerable, but when I was psychically vulnerable, and she would kind of come in like that. And that's why I felt like I had to really get away. And I would say to anybody, if you're in any kind of unhealthy relationship and you don't know what to do, run for the hills. Just run for the hills. Just get away. Just get out of there free.
You can never compete with alcohol or any type of substance abuse.
No. So let's talk about alcoholics, because there's a lot of dynamics. And I know from your grandfather, you've had some exposure to that. And there was alcoholism in my family. My mother certainly got into the Bristol cream sherry. I kept finding it everywhere and going, what's the sherry doing in the laundry basket, And so with that went the secrets and the shame and the abuse, the verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse as well. And we know that alcoholics can often be very mean drunks. They can say horrible, horrible things to us. And so I recommend to anybody that's has come from an alcoholic family, they say you either become one or you marry one. I don't think that's altogether true, but there's certainly a lot of codependency that can go on. That's the overcompensating in relationships. And then we do choose people that are familiar to us. So it's kind of a feeling of comfort because we've had that in a family. Did you ever choose alcoholics as partners, or?
I did 2 of
Oh,
them.
okay.
But the weird thing was, by the time I came along, my grandfather wasn't an alcoholic anymore. My grandmother fought till the day he got sober.
Yeah.
Growing up, my parents never drank. Like the odd beer on a hot, sunny day. I did not grow up being around alcohol. But yet, go figure, I ended up with 2 alcoholics. Not one, but 2.
And that was, you see, that's that generational thing. It's like in the soul DNA. And this is what I say to people. You've inherited the soul DNA that's not yours. So like you did, really. And we've got to differentiate from what was inherited and who we really are and who we want to become. So there's a real, I want to say, diligence that needs to take place when we're asking ourselves, okay, who am I really? Who was I told that I am? What did I inherit? What have I brought in from a past life? And who do I want to be moving forward? And that's very empowering. So, but did you realize that at the time? Or did you say, that's interesting, I've chosen yet another? I always say, if it happens once, it's an event. If it happens twice, it's a pattern. Did you realize that was a pattern for you?
You know what? It's funny because I think I was in denial. I knew he was an alcoholic.
Yes.
The first one and the second one.
Yes.
Of course, you figure that out. Doesn't take long before you figure it out. But denial, big time.
Yes.
You don't want to admit that you've not once, but done it twice.
Right.
And I'm not a drinker really either. I mean, the odd social drink, that's it.
Right.
And so it's like, how did I get to this place?
Yes. Well, I like to explain to people too that like attracts like, but also it attracts complementary energy. So the bully will attract the vulnerable one, right? The abuser will attract the abusee. So I think there's an Annie Lennox song about that, actually. Some people want to be used, some people want to be abused. And it's so true. Like there's almost, I wouldn't say a need, but it's a subconscious belief that that's what I deserve and that's what I'm going to get. So it's probably when the second or third time comes around, you're going, hang on a second, I think I'm the cause of this, or I'm attracting this. And it's when you get to that place, you can go, okay, how do I change that dynamic? And sometimes you have to go, I call it going back to the drawing board or going back to the subconscious, whether in a past life regression or quantum healing, and saying, okay, what's the belief system I'm working with right now? Because that belief system is attracting all my relationships, good and bad. And so we want to make sure that we're feeling of deserving really the best respect, the most respectful relationships. So that's really, really great.
It's kind of funny, Natasha, because I figured it out what happened as I got older, why this happened. Because of everything, I was very vulnerable. Yeah. And so, of course, somebody that is drinks too much, has no respect for, they just leech onto you like almost like gum on your shoe. Yes. Is the only way I can put it, right? That's the only, I put it out there. Unbeknownst to me, that's what I was putting out there. Yeah. I'm vulnerable. I'm weak. And I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
So now, moving forward, and I know you're going through some big changes, Laurie, what would be your ideal relationship? Like with yourself first, how would you like to feel about yourself? Or how do you feel about yourself now, having grown so much?
With everything that's gone on recently, it was really important to me to work on myself. And you know what, Natasha, for the first time in my life, I mean, I went from one relationship to the next.
Yes.
I've been on my own now for 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in January. And you know what? I kind of like myself.
Yes.
I got to know a part of me, and I got to know who I was. I found who I was. And I wasn't this weak, vulnerable girl. I never have been. It's just, I'm a force. I'm a pretty strong force here.
I
And it
agree.
took me a lot of work on myself to get there.
Yes.
It just got lost along the way, but I'm happy to say now that I'm in the best place I've probably been since I was 17, 16.
That's awesome. And that's so inspirational, because I say to women, you know, and men, life gets better as we get older, because I think we grow to love ourselves more, and that is our purpose. And the more we love ourselves, the more other people love us, because we become irresistible. So that's really awesome.
That's right.
There are other people in unhealthy relationships that are very controlling. Have you ever had anybody that's been super controlling in your life?
You know what? Both of my my kid's dad and my husband, my estranged husband, both very much controlling. And, you know, it's going through separation and divorce. There's still that trying to control. And I'm going, no, you're not going to control me anymore.
Right.
Been there, done that.
Right.
You're messing with the wrong person. You know, but it's, I've been through, but I allowed that. Unbeknownst to me, I allowed that. I did not know I was doing that, but that's through working on myself. I was allowing the behavior into my life.
Yeah.
I invited it into my life.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like, now you're kicked out. You're uninvited.
Right. That's good. Because again, we can attract them in, especially there'll be something in us that feels like, oh, it makes us feel safe and protected at first. But then we go, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this box now. I'm in this cage now, and I can't get out. And what I say about controllers, and, you know, I've had my moments where I've been controlling. Hopefully I've learned to release that. Is because we've grown up in chaos, and we feel like we haven't had any control over our situation. And so we fight to have control. And that it's a kind of neurosis, actually. It stays with us. So I think if you're with a controller, what if you're with a controller and you can't get away? Say you're a child in a family in COVID, and you've got a very controlling father or mother or sibling. How are you going to deal with them? I think it helps to recognize that they're coming from a place of fear. They're afraid of chaos. So if you can make sure that in your dealings with them, that you create trust, you are somebody that they can rely on, that you're predictable to them, they will start to control you less, because there'll be more trust. So obviously, like in your situation, you're able to go, bye, see you later.
Right.
And you said you invited them in as well. So you had control over that situation. But if you are stuck with them, whether in a job or a situation, I know I used to be a flight attendant. And when I was a junior and I'm working with senior girls, and they could be very like, most of them were a lot of fun, and we had a blast. But the odd one was like so controlling, and I couldn't help it. But I just have fun with them. I just kind of make jokes and try and make them laugh, and try and make them loosen up. And a lot of the times it worked, and that worked for passengers as well, who wanted to get off the plane or change the menu or whatever. And I just make a joke. And I say, you know, so you're lucky you only have to eat this food once a year. We have to eat it every single day of our lives. And they go, what? And it's just having fun with it, and trying to see them as 4-year-old children who are frightened. And if you can take the power struggle out of that dynamic, and just reduce them to, oh, they're just frightened little children, and what can I do to help you? What can I do to make you feel safe?
Right.
And the energy shifts. So that's really good.
Absolutely. But just for the record, though, you know, with control, a healthy relationship does not consist of control.
Exactly.
It's not control.
Thank you.
That's what is the key ingredient to a healthy relationship is trust, equality,
respect.
You know, respect, all those things. And being a controller is not respect. It's not love.
No, it's a power
And that's
struggle.
one thing that I found. It's that it's none of the above that you need for a relationship to flourish. It's a big fat red flag.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think the main difference, I always say, the way I test my relationships, and if I'm really being treated well, is how do I feel when I'm with that person? Do they add to me? Am I elated to be in the company? Do I feel good? Do I feel loved? Or is there something kind of off about it. And I don't
Right.
need to know what is off. I just need to know that it is off. And maybe that other person doesn't even know why they're reacting to me in some way. I just need to move away. So let's go to abusers. I want to talk about this because there are all kinds of abusers. I mean, there's the extreme. There's the wife beaters. There's the alcoholics who often are violent. There's very damaging verbal abuse. And then there's a more subtle, passive-aggressive, snide comments that are kind of interjected here and there. And so there are definitely degrees of abuse, but some people I've noticed don't even really know that they are being abused. And it's funny because I was in a relationship with a passive-aggressive person long time before my current husband, who's absolutely wonderful. But somebody said to me, how can you let him talk to you like that? And I went, like what? And I think I had become so used to his passive aggressiveness that I was almost letting it just kind of go by. And then that really kind of went, oh my God, am I allowing that? Have I become immune to it and just taking it? So that made me really sit up and pay attention. So a lot of people are doing that. So I'm just going to ask everybody, you know, to think about their relationships and how are they feeling in each relationship. Even with it's a family member, this is very challenging because, you know, we want to love our family. We want our family to love us in a perfect world, like you said before, but that often does not happen. Family is a lot of times where we get our most challenges from. And that's, there's a reason for that because we've come back to this world to remember to love ourselves, to forgive ourselves for past transgressions. And we often find ourselves karmically with a group of people, like you said, I think maybe just before the show, are these people my family or do I belong somewhere else? And I felt the same thing, like maybe I was adopted. These people don't really belong to me. But there were a set of people.
Did they take the wrong baby home?
Yeah, exactly. Please tell me they did. But I looked at my family and I go, they're a set of people that taught me a lot of lessons about me. And so, you know, at best, they've become my kind of upside down angels, right? They're my nemesis. And they've helped me. They've really, like yourself, I was really strengthened by what didn't happen in my family. I had to find my own way and stick up for myself and stick up against them because they were bullies as well. So it's about what would you suggest to somebody? Like I had somebody today saying, oh, you know, I want to heal this relationship with this person who's still bitter and angry and narcissistic. What would you say to that person?
You can't fix somebody until they want to fix themselves.
Thank you.
And it doesn't matter how, you know, how much you harp at them and to do something about it until they're ready, they're not. So you can't change. I figured this out with myself. I could never change what my husband was doing, but I could change me. And so that's what I've done. And, you know, having said that, you have to do what's best for you. And if you're in a relationship that's unhealthy, if you think that you sticking around is going to make them change, you know, I would love to say, you're right, it will, but it won't. I went through it for 20 years. And it's until, you know, and you got to realize too, nobody can love you if they don't love themselves.
That's right.
Right. And when people are drinking too much and they're, you know, they got dependency issues, they don't love themselves.
No.
They're poisoning their body. They're doing horrible things to their body. So, you know, one day
they're in pain. They're in pain a lot of times.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, I mean, one day I sat down and I said, how can I ever expect him to love me the way I need to be loved when he doesn't even love himself?
Right. Exactly.
Right. And believe me, I know all about getting, you know, trying to harp at them to get help. It did nothing.
No.
So it got to the point where, and it was so weird because there was an incident that happened. And that night I loaded my car and I left and I never went back.
Good.
Because I was there. I had finally stopped being in denial. I finally started to realize this isn't going to get any better. And I moved on. I thought, I can't do this anymore. But some people don't have that opportunity. Some people could end up in a situation where if somebody's drinking too much, they're alcoholic or they're into drugs or whatever, and they're control freaks, you know, they may not have that opportunity, because some people, they think it's going to change. They think it's going to change. And you hear about it all the time. They don't make it out.
I often hear, you know, and I thought this too about my mother, for example. If I love her enough and if I get the right information, I can solve it. And what I say to people is like, how arrogant that was of me. Who do I think I was trying to have control and power over her? And I didn't.
Right.
And it left me feeling powerless to help her. But it taught me that, you know, you can't change anybody else. You've just got to bring the energy back here and work on yourself. And so I always like to say we're like these little pebbles in a pond. And if we get happy ourselves and get strong and empowered, and you've already inspired me, and I know you're going to be inspiring lots more people, Laurie, as you continue on down your journey. You're going to be sending out little waves, little ripples, which hopefully becomes a tidal wave of healthy relationships. We can set a new tone. We can set a new level for respecting one another and just allowing each other to be where we are at the time, because a lot of people aren't ready to heal either. So maybe they have to go to the bottom of the barrel. Maybe they have to have a health scare. Maybe they have to OD once to, and then come back, of course, to realize like, oh my God, I'm walking a fine line here. And now I have a choice to make. Am I going to get better, or am I going to just go down that hill and not fix it? I can tell people from my perspective of being a spiritual healer that if you don't fix it in this lifetime, you got to come back and do it all over again. So I'm always encouraging people, you know what?
That's right.
I do it right now. Here's a chance to do it right now. I think, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but one time I had a girlfriend in England and I loved her dearly. We were friends for 30 years. We were both flight attendants for different airlines, but she was very good to me when I was going through my breakdown in my 20s and another meltdowns that I had with my family. And I went back to England one time and I just felt like she was making these kind of little snide remarks, the passive aggressive, the jealousy. I'd moved on and she'd stayed kind of where she was. And I couldn't fix that. And I just, it was really hard for me, but I thought, okay, we're done. And I want to say to people that have got old friends, you want to hang on because you've got all this history together, but sometimes it's better and healthier just to go, okay, it was a slice. I'll see you in the next life.
And move on. And I think that's a huge step. People need to recognize when it's time to go, Natasha. And I think that's why so many women stay in dysfunctional relationships. And, you know, with friends, you know, I mean, sometimes people that are not enhancing your life, you have to let them go.
Yeah.
And including friends. I'm not just talking marriages or, you know, intimate relationships. I'm talking any relationships. And it's really important, I think, that, you know, you start to work on yourself, you know, and the thing is too, until you start believing you deserve and you're worthy and you start loving yourself, you will never have that functional relationship in your life.
Exactly. And when you walk away, I hear people, and I've heard this a lot, oh, what did I do wrong? You know, and I'm saying, no, it just ran its course. It's just a natural partition. I believe that everybody that comes into our life, family, husbands, friends, children, they're mirroring for us either where we do love ourselves and where we don't love ourselves. And it's those people. And I always say, that's why I call my mother the upside down angel, because she was my biggest lesson. Absolutely. I've had other big lessons too, but she was one of the biggest. And it's like, she showed me where on my soul level, I had not been acknowledging and loving myself. And so when I did that, I could see it so clearly from that perspective. So I thank everybody, good and bad relationships in my life. But I think it's knowing when to like cut the cord and go, okay, we're good now. I'll see you. I've learned that lesson. Thank you very much. So you kind of touched on this, but I kind of wanted to go over this a bit more. What does a healthy relationship look like to you?
Love, respect, communication, everything that feels good, Natasha.
Yes.
Because, you know, a healthy relationship doesn't feel bad.
Right.
You know, I mean, nothing's perfect all the time. People are going to have disagreements. They're going to have situations where it's a little bit trying and a little bit tumultuous. You know, you're learning about each other as you go too.
Yes.
But it's how you guys interact. It's how you deal with problems. You know, and it's just, if a relationship's always worked to a certain degree, but if it feels like you're running a marathon every day, you might want to revisit it.
Exactly.
Right? It's not supposed to be that hard.
No. You want to be there, right?
Right. Absolutely.
There's a desire to be there. And I think also, you said it, it's not always perfect, but I have a few friends that are and I have a whole family of clients who I'm extremely grateful for. And they're so appreciative of me and what I do and supportive. And that feels so good. And it's like, of course I want to hang with you, peeps. You know, you're the greatest. And it's not always, somebody can love you, but they can say if you're doing something that they don't, because they love you, that you're doing that's not healthy for you, for example, being with the wrong guy or the wrong girl, they're going to say, maybe you want to rethink that. So sometimes they don't always agree with you, but it's because they do love you. I won't say honesty, of course, loyalty, and just, I think our true healthy relationships just give us joy because they reflect that love and joy in us.
Absolutely.
The last thing I want to say is talk about gifts, grace, and gratitude. And like I say, everything happens for a reason. There are no accidents, including our relationships. Right. And even while we're in a negative relationship, so say we're talking to kids and they're at home and they've got some dysfunction or abuse going on at home, is to really try and step back from that situation just to look at it. And if you're out of a bad situation and you still haven't either forgiven yourself or forgiven the other person, I really want to urge forgiveness, because I'm really coming to the conclusion that forgiveness is the key to happiness. It's the key to health. It's the key to mental health, physical health. I feel like people who, I think many cancers come from not relinquishing our own guilt, our grief, we were bad people, or we're not deserving of good health. So to take everything that's happened to us in terms of relationship and kind of maybe even write down the people that have hurt us or the major relationships that we've had or the ones we do have, and look at the gifts, grace, and gratitude. And what I mean by the gifts are, what are they teaching you about you? And then the grace is accepting who they are. So, if I'd accepted that I couldn't help my mother at all when I was 17, my life would have been so different. I would have, I don't know what I would have done, but it was a meant to be. I get that. That was my karma with her. So acceptance is grace, is just letting it be, not having to fix anything, especially yourself. Just saying, I love me where I am today. I'm doing the best I can. Maybe I'll do better tomorrow, right? So to me, Laurie, you represent grace in the way you talk about your family now, and the understanding that you have, and the beautiful way you're mothering your kids, and how you hold yourself now. You're in a state of grace. And I just really salute you for that, because I know there's been a lot more stories than we've talked about tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
That you've been through. And I've just been, as you know, I'm getting involved with First Nations youth and families because I want to pass on my knowledge of quantum healing and the tools to empower kids, is that there's lots of, massive stories, lots of dramas. So we want to create new stories for everybody and set a higher tone for healthy relationships. And then gratitude. I'm always, that's my gratitude and forgiveness is my practice. So I didn't really understand this for a long time. If I put myself in a place of gratitude, I'm like putting myself already in a higher frequency where I'm looking down and able to see all the abundance of relationships, love, all the material things that, support me and take care of me. but just being grateful for those lessons that those unhealthy relationships taught you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
I would just say, it's not healthy to beat yourself up. We all make mistakes and we all put up with stuff that we probably shouldn't have. And a lot of it is our self-esteem, and it's so important that you get to a place where, you truly are comfortable being in your own skin. Yeah. And so many women young women and older women just they don't have that.
No.
And I just thought, I refuse to go through my life never experiencing, I don't want to die and never have experienced a beautiful, wonderful relationship. Right. We all deserve that. And yes. When you start deserving it yourself, then it's amazing how things just happen. It's just don't beat yourself up for the everything that you go through in life was meant to happen. And even my two alcoholic exes that treated me like crap and who I tried so badly to love, so hard. Don't beat yourself up, because I am so glad I have those experiences now, because they have made me be even more of a fighter. And I'm feisty, but I'm really feisty now.
Good.
Now I'm taking my life back, and it made me realize who I am. Yes. And got me to where I'm supposed to be, right? Yes. Or is getting me to where I'm supposed to be. I should say I'm still, there's always something to learn, but yes. Never beat yourself up. Never beat yourself up. And forgiveness is huge, because you're allowing, not them. You're not forgiving them because you say it's right what they did. You're forgiving them so that you can feel like you can move on. If you are harboring resentment, you will never move forward, and you'll carry that through the next relationship and the next relationship. You have to be in a place of forgiveness in order to move forward healthy in your life.
Yes. And I think what you said about loving yourself, that's the first relationship. That's a primary relationship.
Absolutely. And if you don't, figure out why.
Right.
Go talk to somebody.
And forgiving, like, you are enough. You're more than enough. I say to the women, you're a goddess. And I feel, and I was told this too, that the women in the world set the tone for how the men behave. Because if we love ourselves, we're going to make or inspire men to behave much better towards us. So not to blame women for men's behavior, that's definitely not what I'm saying, but just the more we raise ourselves up, the more men will rise up to meet us on our level.
Absolutely.
So that's how we change the world, by loving ourselves, especially women. So thank you so much, Laurie. I'm just going to do my kind of shout outs for the end of the show. I can't believe how quickly time goes.
I know.
It's already almost an hour. So thank you. I always send out thank yous to everybody that's taking risks in terms of dealing with, as a friend of mine calls it, the cocoa virus.
Right.
And he says it sounds friendlier than COVID. And, I want to just say to people who aren't being cautious, who are just hanging out, I know it's very hard, social distancing, but just think, just that small act can save a life. And would you really want that on your karmic record, that, oh, I didn't care about anybody else, I'm okay, Jack, and I, was responsible for the death of 5 people because I couldn't just stay away from somebody else for a while or wear a mask. So please, 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 everybody, think, and it's not just about you, it's about everybody that's in your sphere. So thank you to all those frontline people who are taking care of us people who aren't being so smart, and those people who are sick, not from being uncareful, but just through circumstances. I want to thank you, Laurie, for coming on and sharing your story. I love hearing other people's stories. And next week, I'm going to be doing a psychic show. So I'm inviting people to come on with the questions. I'm calling them power psychic readings. So for 10 minutes, you come on. It's just $25. But, if there's 5 or 10 of us, we can just go as long as the show goes. So come and join us. Share your story. Share your questions. Ask me what you'd like to know moving forward. And then now I always end this show with a meditation So, Laurie, I don't know if you want to join me and just close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. Imagining that you have a virtual rose crystal ball sitting on your lap. And as you inhale your favorite color of high vibration, of love, trust, loyalty, imagining all the people that truly love you, that truly support you, your spirit guides and angels, bringing in the love and recognizing who you truly are in your highest and best self, and exhaling anything and anyone that you don't need and blowing them into the bowl, all those less than feelings, and breathing in forgiveness and just knowing that you are always right about how you feel and you're always good enough. You're always good enough. And just exhaling again any tensions that you're feeling in your body and letting them go into the bowl. And as you inhale again, I just want you to say thank you to all the relationships in your life, the good and the bad, that have taught you about who you are and who you can become. And then on the next inhale, say, I forgive you for all the people, all the things that have been done to you that maybe still hurt you. Just let them go. Let that pain just go into fairy dust and blow away in the wind. And you are free now of that past. And then I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I am good enough. I am an innocent. And there is actually no need for forgiveness, but I am releasing any sense of wrongdoing, knowing that I always do the best that I can with the love that I have available to me. And saying, I'm sorry. And you are forgiven. You are beautiful. You are a spark of the divine in the process of becoming the God, goddess that you truly are. Amen, so be it, and so it is. Namaste, Laurie. Namaste, everybody. Be kind to each other, love yourself, and be happy.